What's up, y'all? My name is Lucas Lyons, and we got some things to talk about. First things first, racial puberty, part 2. I'm pretty sure I stated this in my last video about how I didn't read. I barely read at all growing up. And as you know, it's a point of contention for me because I feel like I'm so far behind when it comes to just being educated about a lot of things in life. And I'm sure, a lot of people feel that way. But, and I think that contributed to my fears and this anxiety I had about race without even thinking about race. I didn't want to even broach the subject, talk about it at all, do any of that type of thing. So again, racial puberty, I was almost thought about changing this YouTube channel to racial puberty because everybody's on a different piece of their journey. Everybody's at a different point in time in their lives when it comes to race. And race was not always the most consequential part of my life. But the first time and I'll get to other times when things were staring me right in the face when I didn't take advantage of it. But there are times and there are seasons in life. But the first time was in college when I really started to read about race. And that first book that I read was by the late Dr. Bobby Wright. God bless his soul, his leading psychologist, social scientist out of Chicago, the University of Chicago. And he was one of the pioneering voices, and there are a whole bunch of, this is why I'm going to start numbering these racial puberty things. So there's a whole bunch of authors, a whole bunch of scientists, a whole bunch of thinkers, a whole bunch of pioneers who really are helping me along this journey. And one of the first was Dr. Wright. And he wrote this book, I have it right here, The Psychopathic Racial Personality. First book I'm reading about race, and this is really sort of what led me on this journey. It's really, I believe the word is seminal in my understanding of who I am as a black man. And I'm going to talk about Dr. Bobby Wright, I'm sure, in a lot of videos, and again, others as well. But one of the key things that I got out of, and you should YouTube him, I'll actually include some links below. I'll include some links down. He has a beautiful lecture, I think one of the only lectures about what it means to be a black person. Now, some of the things I might feel are outdated, and some of the things I might feel are more relevant than ever. So, you always have to, no one is above criticism, but and I'm sure I'll get to the point where I can formally and have the vocabulary to criticize some of these things, but that's not what this video is for. This is to just laud Dr. Bobby Wright's work, and he died at a very young age. But one of the main things about the book is that he says, which sort of led me on this roller coaster journey, was amongst other things, it's futile to try to morally persuade white people to do right and to disclaim white supremacy and do right to non-white people. Generally, this is before ADOS, this is before the nuances of ethnicity, national, this is before all that. We're talking about white and non-white people. This is what he said. And this really had me thinking, again, at a time where I was surrounded by the population around me was majority white. And, having to go through something day in and day out and really coming to terms with, and this is also when the Mike Brown was shot in Ferguson, and there was a lot of this racial tension in the country. Always has been there, but the first time I forget what that movie is, the Others or something. We put the glasses on and you see things for the first time, or I guess a more sophisticated example would be Plato's Cave, when you see that they're just shadows, and the sun is actually this huge racial problem that we have, problem of the 20th and the 21st century, this huge issue that we're having. And so I read this and I was like, wow, will it ever be possible this goes into what, again, the Negro dilemma Martin Luther King Jr. talks about, will it ever be possible to get to a point where white people will, whatever it means to do right, and some of us don't agree about what that means, but white people ever get to that point? And so this is what had led me on this journey in which I was just frustrated for a long time. I was angry. I forget the racial theoretical thing about the 5 stages of black thought. And actually, it's funny because I think theory is very interesting, especially racial theory, race theory. And I was like, man, this isn't gonna apply to me. But the 5 stages are actually pretty clear cut. And one of them, the early ones, was rage, like intense rage, like what Baldwin says, when to be a conscious Negro in this country is to almost always be in rage. And I felt that. Especially reading Dr. Bobby Wright's book, you'll feel that as a black person. And that's where I was for a long time. And, I still have spurts here and there of rage and just mistrust. And again, racial puberty, these are things we have to talk about. And, but yeah, that's Racial Puberty Part 2, one of the first books that I read. It's gonna be out of chronological order from what really occurred in my life. But again, going by readings, this is one of the books that really, one of the first books that really had got me thinking. Which leads me into I wouldn't be able to have these conversations about what's happening with Black people, ADOS specifically, in this country. And you look at, again, the presidential election, that's on everybody's mind right now, 2020. What's going on? What just happened in South Carolina? Well, Biden won with a sweeping majority, I think it was 40% or something, and he had a majority of African-American voters, and I'm pretty sure the statistics would show that most of the Black people in South Carolina are native Black. I feel like that's, I don't say common knowledge, I hope I'm not wrong about that, but I feel like that's the case. And what this shows about what Biden was able to do is, this is making things clear to me, again, seeing the sun from what the shadows were, and that it's just, a fire and in the cave, You think about what Joe Biden has to offer, and he has no real Black agenda to address the racial wealth gap. He's one of the most strident people for the war on drugs. He is, from his policy, again, you want to talk about policy, and Ibram Kendi talks about racist, anti-racist, and there's some things I agree with, some things I disagree with him, but if you look at Kendi's framework, and he says, you are a racist or an anti-racist depending on your actions, your policies, Joe Biden would be considered a racist looking at his policies. And so when you look at what he does, and I don't want to get too thick in the weeds about the connection between, again, using Kendi's definition of, and again, I disagree with this, but he says that some of your actions can be racist or anti-racist. But looking in that framework, I think it's illuminating to show that Biden is a racist because his policies have spearheaded locking up Black people, specifically native Black people of this country. And one of the things, and I'll again include the link below, I'll show, on NPR, they were talking about how he was running this ad which said that, you shouldn't vote for Bernie Sanders, another front-runner for the Democratic Party. You shouldn't vote for Bernie Sanders because he considered running a primary against Barack Obama. And that was the substance. That was the substance of the ad that was playing in South Carolina, pandering to who? To Black people, saying you shouldn't vote for Bernie Sanders because he was going to bring on a primary against Barack Obama. And that was the substance of it. Nothing about what he's going to do for Black people, nothing about the policy, it was just who's going to... The only thing that addressed policy was Bernie Sanders tried to eliminate or disrupt what Obama's legacy was. Under Obama, you saw small business loan applications and commitments from the federal government to Black people decrease nearly 8-10-fold to what it was under Bush's administration. And I'm not glorifying Bush, I'm just putting it in comparison. Obama stimulated the war on drugs with billions of more dollars, with so much more military gear throughout his terms, and yet we came out and we voted for him. Fool me once, fool me twice, that situation. Obama is... Eddie Glaude in his book Democracy and Black talks about how Obama, under him, it was the Great Recession in 2008, Black people lost, I forget the words that he used, I gotta have these notes down pat, I got my pen and my pad here, I gotta have these notes down pat. But he said that it wasn't a Great Recession, it was so much more severe for the Black communities because of the predatory loans that Obama did not audit, that Obama did. And I hate to get on Obama because even though my focus is ADOS, I do strongly believe that white supremacy is a global issue and non-white people need to band together. But seeing him as a non-white person who is just another tentacle of the system is disheartening, because a lot of people expected Obama to do something to be there, but that's beside the point. But Biden ran this ad, again, to sort of say he's going to disrupt Obama's legacy. We just talked about some of what Obama's legacy did and how it completely ignored the plight, the racial wealth gap of ADOS. And what this says is we really have to sort of wake up. And this is why I say, again, my duty is to talk to other black people, not necessarily to white people initially, because black people are coming out for Biden. I can do more research and seeing what is being done. But to my knowledge, there wasn't a big swelling in South Carolina of, hey, please, not please, but hey, this is what we want, this is what we demand, this is what we need, this is the black agenda that's going to close the racial wealth gap, that's going to help address the physical, emotional, spiritual wounds conducted by the federal, state, and local government and the policies in that. I hope my face isn't distracting. Came from the gym, didn't do anything. I hope it's not distracting to the video. But I didn't see that in South Carolina. And what South Carolina means and what this indicates is that the candidates don't take black people seriously, and there's no need to take black people seriously. This is what happened in South Carolina. Biden just got them. I think there's an article saying, like, basically Biden saying, black people know what's up. It's just me. Like, come on, vote for me or else. Again, they're using this Trump scare tactic, but Biden basically said, who else they gonna vote for? And it's kind of scary. And this is why I started this YouTube channel, not primarily why I started the YouTube channel, but this is one of the reasons why, to get my thoughts out there, to communicate and let you know where I stand, to get the message out, to convey something, to have sort of a bigger voice, to point some things out. Again, I gotta do a better job of clicking resources, receipts in the description. But what this indicates is that you should not vote for Biden. You look at Bloomberg and these other Democrats. I mean, Biden is just, it's so tragic. It's kind of comedy. I mean, you kind of want to laugh at it because I just talked about Biden. You look at Pete Buttigieg. I mean, I'm not sure if the police commissioner or whoever the high-standing official black who was in South Bend, Indiana, was that he fired. I'm not sure if he did a good job. I need to get more details about that. But from what I heard about South Bend, Indiana, Pete Buttigieg is not ready to be president. It was on Democracy Now! There was a black man who was describing exactly what his reputation was and what his record was in Indiana. And to my knowledge, Pete Buttigieg, again, and he has nothing to specifically speaking to the black agenda, so he also shouldn't even be considered. Bloomberg, what? Completely not even addressing stop and frisk and how most of the illegal contraband carriers in this country are white, and you're locking up black people, again, primarily native black people of this country. Is Bloomberg, you got all this money, why not use that to give voice to reparations, a new black agenda? What they're just buying, literally, you're writing checks to mayors, to officials, to these black people who are also taking this money, sort of taking the bait for what Bloomberg was. I mean, just look at his reputation from New York. There's no way a black person should take him seriously, again, unless you're coming to the table with a black agenda to address the wrongs. Then you take another look at Amy Klobuchar. A piece just came out on her about how she locked some 16-year-old boy up and was standing on that at a debate just the other week. She is a joke. She is a joke. Imagine what she's going to do as president of the United States. Please, she is a joke. Okay, and she also doesn't have a black agenda. She is not saying anything about the black agenda. And then you come to Warren, who's not doing so hot. I was talking to a woman I was in a professional development program with, a white woman recently, two white women who kind of said, even though they were going to vote for Bernie Sanders, they sort of resigned because of healthcare, and like they seemed like they were single issue voters. But it was interesting because it seemed like they were voting for Bernie over Pete Buttigieg primarily because of the healthcare situation, and I thought that was interesting. And Warren sort of didn't come up because these women, they said, and they addressed how ironic it was, they felt like Warren's image or something about her, which really had to do with more emotional feelings of sort of ethos and pathos rather than like actual policy. And they said it was ironic because these are women saying they don't really trust Warren. I'm not sure if it has to do something with her being a woman. Very interesting. But they said that they're going to vote for Bernie over Pete, and sort of Warren didn't come up, and they said Warren really doesn't stand a chance. So when you look at the polling, Warren is not doing so hot. She's not doing so well, clearly. Why that is, if she had a black agenda, we could talk about why that might be, what's the case. She's not talking about black reparations, about the new black agenda, the new black deal. There's no need to go into what's wrong with her campaign. And then you look at Bernie Sanders as well, with a lot of young people are coming out to vote for him. It'll be interesting to see if he is the candidate for the Democratic Party. Again, I hate this dichotomy of right, left, Democrat, Republican. But it will be interesting to see who is going to vote for Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders does not have an agenda to close the racial wealth gap. We have black people saying that they're going to vote for Bernie Sanders kind of because it's something. You know, I think his chief of staff or his lead organizer or his lead publicity person is a black woman, and I'm curious to do more research about her. I'm curious to see where she stands. You clearly know where she stands. She's works for Bernie, but I forget her name. I should have actually written that down. I didn't really expect to mention her though. So this woman, I wonder what she sees in Bernie and what he can bring to the black table, because black people, again, I keep saying again. So what it is again, you can disagree with Yvette Carnell, with Antonio Moore, with their delivery, their whatever it is, and we can have a conversation about that. But I have yet to see a thorough, clear, logical criticism of the ADOS agenda that's currently in place on the website. You know, you can disagree with a lot that's going on, but I'm talking about specifically policy-wise, how that doesn't match with again, federal, state, and local violence that has occurred. It's all in books, you know, and I know there's a trope in YouTube videos, you know, have books behind you, whatever. And that's going to be a huge part of my channel, is that it's all like laid out there. If you want to hide something from a black person in this country, put it in a book, as that old saying goes, you know. But I wanted this video to be less than 20 minutes. Also because, you know, I just need to get this information out there, have conversations. You know, I'm looking forward to when I get to the point, hopefully people can leave comments, we can respond to one another. But that's where I am right now. I'm having this conversation. And again, that's why ADOS matters, because what you're seeing is, going back to Joe Biden, is that we are almost invisible. And it's so tragic, it's almost comedy. It's a game. Black people, you shouldn't vote for Bernie Sanders because he tried to go against Obama. What did Obama do for us? We spoke about that earlier in the video. And that's it. That's the only reason why you should vote for me. And that's shameful. And he won South Carolina, and it's shameful. But anyway, you looked at Bernie. I know I'm sort of rambling at the end. Hopefully it's under 20 minutes. But you look at Bernie Sanders. I don't think I finished with that point about how the revolution that he speaks of does not address the racial wealth gap, which will essentially erase, again, road to zero wealth. I should include that in the description below. Road to zero wealth. Black people are not going to have money in 20, 30 years. And unless these candidates are addressing that, I understand what Pam Carolyn, which I were talking about at dinner, about how Trump is going to win. I can see how that might happen. And we are going to get to Trump's policies in future videos about saying, oh, you're not voting for Democrats, well, you're going to vote for Trump. Like, it shouldn't be either or, and that's part of, you know, this is what I'm talking about. This is what we have to discuss. So that's where we are. Click the like button, click the subscribe button. More videos are going to come out. You know, everyone's on this racial puberty journey. Racial puberty sounds so naughty. But, you know, and we take it one day at a time. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And I'll holler at you guys later.